Good morning, Commissioner. Thank you for joining online. We have one more to reach the quorum, Mr. Chair. Now we just got the quorum, Mr. Chair. Sorry, Commissioner, we are missing your voice.
Okay, thanks for all being here. How's that? Better?
Yeah, we can hear you, Commissioner. Thank you.
Okay. I'm going to turn this over to Chad to run since I'm doing it from remote. I think it'll flow better. So with that, Chad, would you like to take over for me?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. With our chair's consent and with your help, good morning, everyone. Welcome to today's WAMPO Technical Advisory Committee meeting, Monday, January 26. We start with the regular business. The first item in the regular business is approval of TAC agenda. Do we have a motion to approve the TAC agenda for today's meeting?
I move to approve.
Thank you, Paul. We have a motion, and is there a second?
I'll second.
Thank you, Lynn. We have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you so much. Motion carries. Let's move to the second item. That's approval of TAC meeting minutes from November 24, 2025. We didn't have a TAC meeting in the December month due to holidays. So do we have a motion to approve TAC meeting minutes from previous TAC meeting from November 2025?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Thank you, Lynn. Is there a second?
Second.
Paul, thank you for the second. And all in favor? Any opposed? Thanks so much. The motion carries. Let's move to this next item. That's Director's Report. We have some items to report to you, members of the Technical Advisory Committee, starting with bi-monthly TIPS project status. Peter and Nick are here to report to you the first four items, and then Regional Transit Coordination Committee formation. Kim is going to update us on the fifth item. So we have 5 items this morning. Let's start with Peter helping us. Thank you, Peter.
Morning, TAC members. Go through our bi-monthly TIP update. So this requires our bi-monthly progress reports for projects programmed to receive WAMPO suballocated federal funding in the current federal fiscal year, or projects that have received it in the past federal fiscal year but are not yet finished. So as is our custom, I'll go through the ones that have some obligation of suballocated fundings planned for this year. So we have the Southwest Butler Road Improvements Project from Southwest 170th Street to 51st Southwest, or to Southwest 155th Street. That is anticipated or has let in October with an additional obligation. It has its funding split over 2 years. So another obligation this year in 2026. Then we have in a similar scenario, the Wichita Intelligent Transportation Systems on East 21st Street North, that let in October. It has some federal suballocated funding for 2026. It was split again between 25 and 26. And then we have the Rock Road Corridor Improvements that is anticipated to let in May of this year. And then Wichita's Redbud Multi-Use Path near Rock Road Phase 2 with an anticipated let date of June 2026. And this map is available on page 10 of your packet that you can see all these projects. And as is our custom, we also show the other non-suballocated federal funds in the WAMPO TIP after the latest amendment, which was Amendment 6. And then I'm going to turn over things to Nick for our next Director's Report item.
Thank you, Peter.
Thank you, Peter. Letting you know now about something that you'll be asked to make a recommendation on soon. The Kansas Department of Transportation this federal fiscal year informed WAMPO and the other Kansas MPOs that they are changing the way that suballocated federal funds are handled. Previously, we had a maximum to award each year. That was a limitation distribution. That limitation distribution was usually approximately 85% of the true apportionment each year. This was done to provide a cushion so that there would not be so much risk of an over-programming at the end of the year. And the idea was that through an August redistribution, that any excess funds would be awarded. But those August redistributions didn't always get the chance to award all of those 15%. As a result, those approximately 15% year over year added up. And so now that the process has changed, because they kept having all that add up, I would guess, but now that has changed, we have a significant amount to award in 2026, 27, and 28 that we did not know we would have before. As well as, and KDOT has asked that MPOs that get suballocated funding get their suballocated balances down to zero by the end of federal fiscal year 2028. In light of all of this, the Project Selection Committee met on January 22nd, Thursday of last week, to make recommendations of what to do about this large projected balance. And they made those recommendations, and those will be brought back to the TAC, this body, at next month's meeting for a recommendation on those recommendations, which will be brought to the TPB in March. And then if something is approved by the TPB, it will be reflected through Amendment 8 to the 2025 to 2028 TIP through a TAC recommendation in March and the TPB meeting for approval of that amendment. This was done on a shorter schedule in order to make sure that any 2026 projects that might qualify for funding would be able to get it, so that they would not inadvertently obligate before these funds were made available through all this amendment process. Any questions on that before I move on to the next item? Online? Questions? Okay. So that's just something to look forward to with that. Another thing to look forward to, on a very much related note, soon we are going to open the call for projects for the new TIP, the FFY 2027 through FFY 2030 TIP. That call for projects will be open February 2nd through March 6th this year. You will receive instructions on how to submit projects for that on February 2nd, 1 week from today. And note, this is an opportunity to ask for suballocated federal funding during 27 through 28. Now, of course, there are already projects in 27 and 28, so most of the funds that would go to new projects that don't already have it would be in 2029 and 2030. But technically, it is not impossible for 27 and 28 to get a new project. It depends on what is submitted and what gets figured out, how the math works out, and what the PSC ultimately recommends when they convene again this March and April to make recommendations on that. But also, This is not just about applying for sub-allocated funding. I want to make that clear. Just like any other TIP amendment, we are also asking for any other project changes or additions that you would have in the normal course for any TIP amendment. And that is to make sure that we have in the TIP up-to-date information for every project receiving federal funding, whether sub-allocated or non-sub-allocated, and any regionally significant projects that do not have federal funding of either description. We'll also ask at some point for information on projects that can be marked as completed from past years and dropped from the TIP. Therefore, just make sure to be on the lookout for those instructions. And here's the timeline for that. We'll have our call for projects February 2nd through March 6th, and March and April PSC meetings to make their recommendations on sub-allocated funding, the portion of the TIP that will be sub-allocated funding. The TAC, most likely, this is a tentative timeline, keep in mind, but tentatively, the TAC will be asked to make a recommendation on the PSC's recommendations through 2030 at the April TAC meeting, which will go to the TPB at their May meeting. Then in late May, early June, KDOT and the FHWA and the FTA will be asked to review the overall TIP document, which will go for a public comment period, a 30-day public comment period in June and July of this year, leading up to a TAC recommendation on the overall new TIP in July and TPB approval in August 2026. This timeline is working towards the September STIP amendment at KDOT. That way, any 2027 projects added or modified or removed could be reflected before the start of the new 2027 federal fiscal year. There would not be any need for any activity on those projects to be delayed past October 1st if they were extremely eager to have an obligation on October 1st or something like that. Any questions on this upcoming item before I turn things back to Peter? Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Nick. And next item, we have Peter giving us a status update on household travel surveys and its RFP.
Just wanted to provide a quick update on this contract. So as we described in I believe our past November meeting, we were looking at pursuing a consultant. We issued the RFP last year. The consultant selection committee made a decision, and we're currently in contract negotiations with the selected consultant. Most notably, we're working with KDOT on a standardized fee schedule. And so that's kind of where we are at the moment. Any questions on the household travel survey?
Seeing none, thank you, Peter. And next we have Kim updating on Regional Transit Coordination Committee.
Good morning, TAC. I'm very excited today to talk about the formation potentially of a new committee. As you are aware, you recently helped us complete and adopt a regional transit implementation plan. So this committee would continue the work that was identified in the plan and a lot of the amazing strategies. So WAMPO staff proposed the establishment of the Regional Transit Coordination Committee. This would be to support public transit related planning, implementation strategies, and innovative practices of the region. So we'd like to bring you what we find other communities succeeding with. So the community would serve as a forum for WAMPO member jurisdictions, transit providers, and invited stakeholders. And we would look at accomplishing these 5 items that we have on the screen, which is reviewing those strategies that were identified in that implementation plan, identifying strategies or efforts currently underway or planned so that hopefully we can help that coordination through the region. We would share innovative transit-related ideas, tools, and practices, encourage dialogue and coordination, of course, among the jurisdictions and partners, and provide transit-related updates to TAC and TPP. Of course, WAMPO staff would assist as much as needed with the facilitation and technical support to make it as easy for our members to participate. We will be asking for a future TAC recommendation, and we'll be taking this to TPB for a discussion and a vote. So those next steps are on the screen. February 10th will be the discussion with TPB. Then we will be back to you at your February TAC meeting on the 23rd to see about a TAC recommendation. Of course, then followed by March 10th TPB meeting. Any questions on this committee or thoughts or ideas?
Hearing none. Thank you, Kim.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you all. I think at this time we completed our regular business. Let us move to the next item in our agenda, that is public comment opportunity, an open forum for the public to provide comments. At this time, we invite any comments from public. Anyone? Okay, hearing none, we'll move to the next item. The next item is an action item that has two sub-items. One with Transportation Improvement Program Amendment number 7, and the second with performance measures and targets. And both Peter is helping with that. Let's welcome Peter.
Okay. Oh, one moment. Okay, we have our regular routine tip amendment number 7 for the FFY 2025 to FFY 2028 tip. It has followed our conventional public review and comment schedule. It had a public comment period from January 2nd through January 16th. That brings us to today for our TAC recommendation with a anticipated TPP vote on February 10th. So you can check out the full details of the tip amendment as a link in your attachment and at the URL shown on the slide there. There are 13 projects in Amendment 7 that require formal action, 6 requests for new projects, and 7 for projects to be modified within a tip. In addition, we want to provide notice to TAC and TPP of several administrative adjustments with this amendment that don't necessarily require a formal action by TAC or TPP. This is available in your packet in that staff report. We do have the map of all of the projects you can see here. And then just to go through these here quickly. First, we have City of Hayesville's Meridian Street and Multi-Use Trail. We updated the project scope, no change in cost. City of Wichita 17th Street North I-135. There was a cost increase paid for with local funding. We have KDOT's I-135 North of US 54 Interchange North to 21st Interchange. There's a cost increase paid for with federal and state funds. We have the City of Park City, that's sponsored by KDOT, but it's in Park City. It's out of St. Clair, located at 6209 North Broadway Avenue. This is a NEVI project for new EV charger stations, sponsored by KDOT. We have changes to KDOT's sponsored project, the K96 from I-135 to I-35 in Wichita, with updated project title, project limits, and project notes. We have KDOT's US 54 East Kellogg Avenue in Central County and Butler counties. They updated the project scope, moved some utility relocation phase back from FFY 25 to 2026, and AC conversions back from FFY 2029 to FFY 2023 or 2033. 4 more KDOT projects here. We have the I-235 ramps located at I-235 and K96 junction. This is a new project. Various intersection improvements for in Sedgwick County. It's a new project. Similar to that same one, 4 different intersections within the city of Bel Air. It's also a new project. Then we also have the K96 capacity improvements from Woodlawn to Rock Road, added as a new separate project in the amount of $129 million. We have Wichita's Transit's FTI 5339 program, update project scopes, and a slight increase in project costs paid for with FTA 5339 and local funds. Then we have Wichita's Transit FTA 5310, think I'm just got a warning here that I was losing the Zoom connection. Do you have, you're clear on your end? Okay, good. Just checking. Okay. Anything?
Lost the.
Go. So our meeting is still hosted. We just lost the share screen from for our PowerPoint slides. Try to rectify that here shortly. Yes.
Peter, are these different than what's in the packet? The numbers that you're trying to
They are
show?
the same as what's in the packet. No changes there.
Okay. Well, if we have the packet available to us, we'll move on and let them worry about that.
Thank you, Chair. We just had another 2 Wichita Transit projects that we're going to list off there, but those are available in your packet for your review. Notably, there are no changes for the suballocated projects that were listed in this amendment. There is no net changes in suballocated funding. Yeah. And then you can also see we have our summary table of the different federal funding changes within the packet for this amendment. And then finally, the Amendment 7, of course, meets our public participation requirements and our different other conventional requirements. So have the public comment and review period. It's consistent with the current Metropolitan Transportation Plan. It's fiscally constrained and adds $158.8 million in financial impact. And that would bring us to our action items. We have the opportunity to recommend the TPP approve FFY 2025 to 2028 TIP Amendment 7 as presented. Recommend the TPP not approve Amendment number 7. Recommend approval with specific changes. And bring us to our staff recommendation. Recommend the TPP approve FFY 2025-2028 TIP Amendment number 7 as presented.
Thank you, Peter. Do we have a motion to approve as presented by staff?
So moved. This is Commissioner
Okay.
Wajak.
So thank you, Commissioner. Is there a second for the motion?
Second.
Thank you, Paul, and thank you, Commissioner. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Could we switch directly to here?
Thank you. And the motion carries.
Slides are on there.
Let's move to this next item of the action item section, that is supporting KDOT federal performance measures and targets. That's Peter Moore as well. So let's welcome Peter.
Trying to troubleshoot the slides one more time. See if we can.
So we have those in the packet on page 19 and 20, Peter, so we could proceed.
With slides.
Okay. That attempt to fix the slides did not pan out quite there. So I'll go ahead and continue if you guys all have the packets in front of you. Our next action item is supporting KDOT federal performance measure targets. So some background. The FHWA and FTA jointly issued a planning rule to document changes in statewide and metropolitan planning processes consistent with the Moving Ahead for Progress in 21st Century Act, MAP 21, the Fixing American Surface Transportation Act, or FAST, and finally, the Infrastructure Investment and Jobs Act, or IIJA. This planning rule specifies the requirements for state departments of transportation and metropolitan planning organizations to implement a performance-based approach to planning and programming. Simply put, establish goals or targets for the future, try to meet those goals, reassess, and then continue on. There are 3 FHWA performance measures rules, 1 FTA transit asset management rule, and 1 FTA transit safety rule. So for this, after a state DOT establishes its performance measure targets, MPOs within that state must either support the state targets or establish their own performance measure targets. In 2025, the WAMPO TPB chose to support KDOT in achieving the performance measure targets for safety, bridge and pavement conditions, system performance, and transit asset management. For 2026, KDOT has updated its performance measure targets for PM1 safety, and those are set every year. So those are those performance measures here. You can see we have all of our 2026 targets for the different kinds of various actions. These are available in your packet. So we have number of fatalities, 390 fatalities per 100 million vehicles, or the rate, 1.23. Number of serious injuries, 1,885. Serious injuries per 100 million T, or the rate of serious injuries, at 5.95. And number of non-motorized serious injuries and fatalities at 215. And then, so they're mentioned here. These are the most recent pavement and bridge conditions targets set for 2023 and 2025. So with this in mind, state DOTs are developing new targets for 2027 and 2029 for these. And these will be presented, or we anticipate that they'll be presented to TPB and TAC in early 2027. It's the same here for these system performance measures. They set targets for 23 and 25. State DOTs across the nation are all developing new targets for the next performance period, which will include targets for 27 and 29. We'll probably have those by the very end of this year, and we'll present those again to TAC and TPB early in 2026. And it's the same story here with transit asset management. State DOTs develop a new plan typically every 4 years. Again, probably have new targets by the end of this year. We're following up with TAC and TPB in early 27. So that brings us to our action item here. The options are to recommend the TPB approve supporting KDOT's federal performance measure targets as of 2026 as presented, or recommend the TPB not approve them, or recommend they approve it with specific changes. Staff recommendation is recommend the TPB approve supporting KDOT's federal performance measure targets as of 2026 as presented.
Thank you, Peter. And are there any questions or discussions on this item? Okay, yeah, please, Steve.
In regards to the PM1, some of the numbers go up, some of them go down. Is there any kind of backstory, especially for the ones that are going up in terms of targeting a higher number of non-motorized fatalities or number of serious injuries? Is KDOT why those are going up?
From my understanding, KDOT looks at the rates and trends of each of these and tries to pick realistic, achievable goals based on prior year's history. Again, it's also good to note these are 5-year averages. So typically to kind of slow that rate down or if the rate is continuing, you want to slow down the rate, but a lot of times slowing down the rate can actually look like keeping values the same. But again, the goal is to make sure, and this is in the FHWA's framework, that all of these are realistic or achievable goals that you can pursue.
Thank you, Peter, for clarifying that the rate is higher and the forecast is reducing the rate. It appears to be same or higher, but still the rate was reduced. Thank you for clarifying that.
Mhm.
Any other questions or discussions? Okay. Hearing none, is there a motion to approve the recommendation for the TPB to approve supporting KDOT's federal performance measure targets as of 2026 as presented by staff?
I'll move.
Thank you, Steve. We have a motion. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Paul. We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Thank you. Any opposed? Thank you so much. And that motion carries. And now we just completed our action item in the agendas. Now we move on to the discussion and update items on our agenda, starting with safe routes to school update. I think there might be some, sharing the presentation. Chris Brown is joining online, and Kim Negret from WAMPO is both are here. Chris, we are looking to see how to share the technical issue solving of sharing the screen.
Okay.
Is there
Yeah, unfortunately, doesn't look
there's
like.
a link or a PDF that we can send to the members in a chat? They could look at something, and then we can, we can correspondingly refer to that document, or anything in the packet would help the audience as well.
Yes, maybe we'll just touch on the highlights. I know they're still trying to get those slides up, and we can, hopefully drop some stuff here in the chat. But we are very excited to report that things are rolling smoothly, and we're really getting some great progress on the Safe Routes to School initiative. Chris has prepared wonderful slides, so I definitely want us to be able to share those, whether we can share those in the chat or following the meeting. But Chris, do you want to maybe talk us at least through kind of where we're at in this process? And also, for those in the room, you do have a draft conditions report from the city of Andover and the Andover School District as an example that we will also be sharing out with the meeting minutes as well. So Chris, you want to,
looks like it.
Load.
Great timing. Okay.
Yes, perfect timing.
I was gonna say I have it on my screen too. If this fails again, I had sent a request to share my screen, but we'll just keep rolling now that's working. So, all right. Well, yeah. So today we'll be discussing the existing additions process. So as Kim noted, have completed one of the school districts. So wanted to highlight the steps in that process and what you can expect to see for the remaining schools and school districts. Quickly touch on next steps over the course of the year. So we have another year here of this effort that'll be completed at the end of 2026. And then also friendly reminder that we do have a stakeholder meeting coming up on February 9th. And so just wanted to highlight that in the upcoming agenda. So our existing addition elements here, we went through a variety of resources and data at the school level, looking at local plans, community plans, just to understand if there's any synergies, snapshot of the school, enrollment and other data, transportation network items, safety with crash history, digging into how the school site is currently operating with circulation diagram, and then also all that engagement data that I've presented on here several times related to the student travel tallies, caregiver survey, walk audits, etc. So a lot of good information here for these reports. So I'll have some screenshots along the way, and these will match the example report again that you should have in your packet. So from the local plans perspective, Again, just wanted to understand any applicable information that's been completed to date. Obviously, we want to make sure that this plan is is coordinating with everything else that's going on at the local level. Identifying any synergies for issues, projects, etc., that should be considered as a part of this effort. Again, and then just making sure that this Safe Routes to School planning effort supports the local communities and school districts with their long-term planning by acknowledging and potentially incorporating this information into our process. So as you can see for Andover, again, we did your Google search to see a publicly available information and coordinated with WAMPO accordingly just to confirm if we'd missed anything. So, highlighted here the comprehensive planning and recreation planning that's been completed to date in Andover. The school snapshots are helpful. Obviously, just very good information to know, to consider. And this is, information also that would be utilized potentially in a grant application. And so just giving you your basic information and high level understanding of what's the enrollment, what are the grades served, the school day, and then free and reduced lunch and special education needs. These are typically just good snapshots and best practices to understand, again at a high level, the needs of a school community, and obviously what we're working with at that level from a student body standpoint. And then we looked at the transportation network and crash history. So this was using WAMPO or KDOT data. So WAMPO's data for the existing and proposed sidewalk and bicycle networks. Obviously a really critical piece of information. We took a look at roadway functional classification and annual average daily traffic volumes to understand roadways that are potential barriers. Obviously higher volume, larger roadways can be an issue for people walking and rolling and biking. We looked at traffic control, so we have intersection traffic control and marked crosswalk locations using WAMPO's data as well to understand existing or perhaps future crossing opportunities. We looked at 5 years of crash data for all crashes and heat mapped that to understand any key issue areas from a safety standpoint, and also dug into the specific locations of pedestrian or bicycle involved crashes over the last 10 years. Obviously another important piece of information to consider from this standpoint of walking and biking. And yeah, here's the visual example. So this would be the standard template for our existing condition mapping for all schools, and the corresponding information that I mentioned that's being highlighted on this map graphic. And this is all within, sorry, just to note, the radius, I think we have discussed this before, but this is all within that half-mile radius of the school locations. And then the site circulation. So this is a very important piece as well, that last mile, if you will, to the school site. So highlighting key elements of how that's operating today with where the school buses, parent vehicles, front doors, bike racks, where are those destinations that students that are walking and biking are trying to get to? Where are the conflict points or issue areas between buses and parent vehicles and students walking and biking? And then we sent for the Andover example, and we do this for the other ones. We sent this out to Andover just to triple check and confirm that our assumptions were correct, and also used our walkout information to cross-reference too. So understand that this circulation can be a constantly changing and morphing piece of the puzzle, and so want to make sure this is right, in today's snapshot, to our best knowledge. So this would again be another element that's included in all for all schools. And engagement. So we have a lot of engagement information. So again, just small subset of snapshots here of our, from a chart standpoint of our student tallies, from our caregiver surveys. And then on the next slide, we have a snapshot of the public comment map that each school would have. So this is showing all of the interactive web map comments we received. There were 3 options: walking concern, biking concern, or other concern. And so this would be, the dots, the locational information being highlighted. And then we would also, on the map graphic and in the report, provide just some synthesized information of what we received from the comments, and then all the raw comment information would be in a future appendix, but along with all the other engagement information. But just trying to have a nice map graphic that is highlighting the issue areas to see where those are, where those locations are from the community standpoint. All right, so those are all the pieces of the puzzle. Next steps, over the spring here. So between, quite literally, we're currently working on the next one. So we have 9 more reports because we're working with 10 school districts at the moment. So we'll be working on those over the coming weeks, completing those district by district. And so those will be gradually getting sent out here as we go along. We'll start to, in tandem, organize some draft lists and graphics identifying issue need areas from all of this good analysis. And that'll slide right into identifying high-level lists of infrastructure and programmatic recommendations. So all this is going to be, getting developed into the spring and early summer, between now and frankly late spring, early summer. So much more information to come here in the next several months as we really get underway and start processing more information. We also will begin our next round of engagement with the remaining schools within our scope of work. There is a small number of schools remaining that we want to engage with and complete all of the survey and tally and walk audit information. I believe there's, I think, 6, 7, 8, 9 schools, somewhere in there. So a small number, but nevertheless, wanted to highlight that there's another round of that information coming. Summertime, is when we'll really be focusing in on having some one-on-one, not one-on-ones, but small group meetings with school districts and agency staff to review all this information and dig through especially the recommendation lists, get everybody's feedback, make sure we're not missing anything, make sure we're in close coordination. Then obviously, as I mentioned in the fall, we're finalizing all of this, continuing to meet with everybody and closing out the project. So a lot of information to come here in the next year that we're excited to work with you all on. And yeah, just much more to come. And again, this is just, I believe I've shown the slide before, but just a friendly reminder, kind of our recommendations approach, just showing from the infrastructure standpoint, kind of the high level of information that we'll be identifying locationally and the corresponding recommendations. So this would be within that half-mile radius of every school. And friendly reminder again for that February 9th stakeholder meeting, we'll go through this existing conditions process again, admittedly, but we also wanted to have some group discussions on, from the programmatic and infrastructure standpoint, what everyone's already doing. Is there any good examples that we could be aware of, from the quick build standpoint? So that's, using paint or flex posts or other materials to create safety improvements from the capital standpoint, filling gaps, improving crossings, and from that programmatic standpoint of, how is Safe Routes to School being leveraged today, just to get a flavor of what everyone's up to and talk about then where we're going to head from the recommendation standpoint. So hope everybody can make it to that next meeting. And I think that's my last slide. So happy to answer any questions.
So most importantly, please keep in mind for our TAC members, as soon as we get these draft reports, we will, of course, be sharing those out with our appropriate TAC members and staff to get your expertise and feedback on developing these final recommendations, because we obviously don't want to give the school a list of recommendations that cannot be built or cannot be completed. So we want to definitely make sure we have your input. So we will be sharing those drafts with you as soon as we get them, as well as with our school partners. So. Any additional questions? And just so you know, we are currently recruiting for those additional schools. So if you have schools in mind, please let us know. Thank you. Thank you, Chris.
Thank you, Kim and Chris. Thank you. Just want to comment, Chris, good job in the report. There were some, the student travel tallies had a good capture of mode of transportation, like, what percentage walk, what percentage bike, what percentage school bus, what percentage commuting by family vehicle, and so on. And there's also good, identification of where are the locations of walking concern, biking concern, and other, no sidewalk or connectivity concerns. Those are well illustrated on both. So I just want to encourage everybody to look and see if there are any additional improvements that can be made. One quick question, Chris. Are these concerns based on the field visits or based on the surveys?
In that map graphic? With the,
yeah,
so
or
those
is it
are
a combination of both? Yeah.
Yeah, so it's just what we received from the public. So it's not including walkout information. That's a separate section. It's just the issues identified by community members, parents.
Been forwarded to an automated voice messaging
on the
Okay.
on that line map there. Yep.
Yeah, thank you, Chris. That's helpful. That walk audits were confirming those, but some combination
Hello?
of it.
Hello?
Thank you.
Thank you.
So,
Are you there?
Dan.
Hello?
all right. So we'll move on to the next item. That is, thanks, Chris and Kim. So the next item, Kim is again here to help us on update behavioral safety toolkit development.
Very excited. As you know, we have been bringing forward behavioral safety efforts, best practices over the last couple of years, and we are excited to get moving on developing our own set of resources and sharing those out with all of our jurisdictions and community partners. So this project is looking at the Safer People section of the Safe System approach that all of us utilize. And it's really looking at promoting responsible behavior through education, enforcement, and making it easier for people to make those safe choices. So this is really, how do we get the community engaged in increasing our safety efforts? So that is kind of where we're focusing. How do we make those behavioral changes and increase general awareness in the community about transportation safety and how they can be a part of making our roadways safer for all users. So WAMPO staff, right now we're currently recruiting any jurisdiction staff or community partners who might be interested in serving on this advisory committee. They will be assisting us with the development of a toolkit of behavioral safety resources that then in turn may be used by any of the jurisdictions or community partners, church groups, scout groups, anybody who's interested in getting involved in making our community safer for all. So we're excited about that. The resources will include safety messaging, strategies and ways to engage residents, and then a variety of activities for all ages to engage in. We're excited to ask our jurisdiction partners to really help us review ideas and resources to include, because then that will ensure that the resources in the toolkit are relevant and useful for meeting local community needs. We want to make sure we're giving you messaging activities that will work. So this committee, it's going to be a pretty short committee timeline, if that helps get you excited to join our committee. We're looking to have this completed in July of 2026. And the exciting thing is all of these resources will be uploaded onto WAMPO's safety page, and we're going to be redoing the entire page to be a hub of resources and safety data. So very excited about this project. We're reaching out now, but if you're interested, definitely let me know.
Thank you, Kim. And for everyone, this is a great opportunity to, for a new initiative and innovative ways of, reducing crashes and improving safety. Traditionally, we had been following, improving design aspects of it. But there is also opportunities for enforcement and awareness, educational awareness as well. So thanks, Kim, for the initiative.
Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for Kim? All right. Hearing none. We have projects obligated in fiscal year 2025. Let's welcome Laura Van Berkeley from WAMPO to present. Thank you.
Yes. Hello. So the annual listing of obligated projects are the federally required documents developed by staff here at WAMPO that have the projects that have had federal funds obligated in the past federal fiscal year. An obligation is an administrative step for which the federal government is officially obligated to provide previous awards or programmed funding for qualifying projects. In simpler terms, obligation is the federal government's formal promise that the money for a project is officially set aside and ready to be spent. Sorry. the things that could happen with these projects, all of the ones in the tip that have had obligations federal funding in the past fiscal year will be in here. On top of that, projects that have not had any suballocated WAMPO dollars from our programs will still be included in this ALOP if they had federal funds obligated from non-suballocated federal programs. And every once in a while, a project may be de-obligated, and that's when a project is complete but hasn't used all of its previously obligated funds. And that will be represented by a negative amount in the report. So on the next few slides, you'll see a few negative amounts, and that just means they are de-obligated. This chart shows you how much federal funding was obligated in FFY 2025 across our programs. About half of the total was from suballocated programs like SDBG, CMAC, TA, and CRP. And the other half on the bottom came from statewide, public transit, or non-suballocated programs. Altogether, we saw about $35 million in net federal obligations for the entire region. This page shows the list of individual projects that received federal obligations or de-obligations during the federal fiscal year. The number on the left, the far left, corresponds with the labels on the map from the next slide, and in your agenda packet, it's on page 28. And then this shows all of the mappable projects that had federal obligations in FFY 2025. It shows where the federal dollars were put to use during 2025. And that's all I have. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Laura. Any questions for Laura? Okay. Thank you so much. That completes our discussion updates on the agenda. So we move on to other business item. We are pleased to have JB Wilson to update us on status of K254. Thank you, JB.
Thank you, Chad. The Kansas Department of Transportation is hosting a public open house for the discovery phase of the K254 Rock Webb Greenwich Interchange Study on Thursday, February 5th, 2026, from 5 p.m. to 7 p.m. at Northeast High School at 5550 North Lysee Street in Bel Air. The public may stop by at any time during the meeting to learn about the study, review display materials, and provide input. This interchange study was identified as a top priority at KDOT's 2023 local consult meeting. The project is in the discovery phase and will involve identifying location and interchange type between Rock Road, Greenwich, along K254 north of Wichita. For more information, you can visit ks.gov you can visit ks.gov/K254-RWG. Meeting information will be available online at the time of the meeting for review and comment through Thursday, February 19th, 2026. I'd like to thank WAMPO for printing off some flyers with a QR code for additional information that also has the website as well.
Thank you so much, JB. Any questions for JB Wilson? Okay, hearing none. Staff, anything else? Okay. Any questions online? There will also be a meeting thank you, Marcy. There's already another meeting at 254 meeting on February 6th as well. Okay, great. Well, Mr. Chair, we are at the time of adjournment. Any other items from anyone? So with your permission, Mr. Chair, we are adjourning the meeting. Motion, do we have a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Okay, all second.
Second.
All in favor? Opposed? Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Have a great day.